Hello, and I think we're live. I think that's good. All looks good. My end. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. How is everybody? Hello, Rosebud. Hi, Kimberly. Hi, Amy Jarrett. Hi, Guernsey Girl. Nice to see you. Hi, JD. Hi, Miss M. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. It's starting to get cold and dark now here in the UK, which is always a little bit depressing this time of year. Takes a little bit of getting used to, but there you go. And we're another month lockdown as well, which we started about a week ago. I think it was. So the Watts case, which I've named the video What's LSD, because it literally is like a drug for people, isn't it? But trouble is, you take the drug and then your mind gets warped, and you start thinking all sorts of crazy things, and you get confused, and you go down crazy rabbit holes, and you take in lots of information that's not true. And I think that's the whole problem with this case. And even now, over 2 years later, it's just becoming a complete circus again, isn't it? Just becoming a complete circus again. So I wanted to just go over a few things tonight, really. We've got just to cover Watts's new 35C appeal, which, if you don't know, is now going to be based on his first confession, believe it or not. Cheryln Cadle's got a new book coming out. Chris has been a naughty boy in prison. I mean, some of this isn't even news, but for some people it is. And yeah, just some inconsistencies and stuff that I found in what Cheryln Cadle's talking about, and it's a shame because I don't want to sit here and bash authors, but I think so many people are so attached to this case, and so many people are so clued up about this case. There's people that have read every single piece of information there is out there. So people are very quick to pick up on things that either aren't true, or authors may be adding in their own little bits to a story, and it's not good. Everybody just wants the truth. I think that's. I mean, in my mind, I think we have the truth. I think maybe there's a few little bits that have been left out, but I think ultimately we've got the truth. We've had a confession, a detailed confession from a man who really cares about what people think of him. Yet he's given this detail. Why would he give this detailed confession if he didn't mean it? It just doesn't make sense to me that people can't seem to take that in. And then when he spoke to Cheryln Cadle with her book, he added bits in, but his story doesn't change. Story doesn't change. So I just wanted to go through this article first. This is just something that kind of perked my interest a little while back. And, unbelievably, it seems that Chris Watts' parents are behind. They are behind and in support of Chris's new appeal, which I'm really disappointed about. And, I can, I mean, denial is one thing, isn't it? But I mean, this just seems to be taking it to a whole new level. They're happy with, or apparently happy with Shanann being again put under the microscope and attacked, and that's just unacceptable, isn't it? I mean, they've just got to come to some acceptance of what their son brother has done, and hopefully in time that will happen. Um, it's just a shame that that Shanann's family are having to go through all this again. We're having to see all this appeal again, going back to confession one. It's like going back in time. It's like putting on a TV and some crappy old horror movie comes on, and you just think, oh my god, that's just what a load of rubbish, you know. It's almost like we've been transported back in time. Um, and it's just sad. It's a sad state of affairs, really, isn't it? If that's the best he's got, then I think it also, you know, is pretty clear, isn't it? That he did it on his own. This is his one shot, guys. This is his one shot to get out, and the best he can do is go back to trying to blame his wife. I think that just proves that he's got absolutely nothing to even try and get himself out of prison. He did it. He knows he did it. It was all him. You've just got to listen to his confessions, and you've just got to take everything in. Really, there isn't anything else, you know, to that story. Yeah, no remorse. I mean, think of how dumb he is, right? He called before anybody knew, before anybody knew that Shanann and the children were missing. He called the school and said the kids are not going to be coming to school anymore. This was at 8 something in the morning before anybody knew they were missing. Okay, how is he going to explain that to the police if they're looking for his family and they go, "Oh, Chris, you called the school this morning and told them the kids aren't going to be there"? I mean, you know what I mean? It's just his level of dumbness is there for all to see, and there sadly doesn't seem to be that many people that really actually want the truth in this case. There are people out there that are biased. They've got their own agendas and their own narratives that they're trying to meet and fulfill. Instead of actually looking for the truth, they're ignoring certain sections of it, of the case details, strictly to stick to their story. But that is not looking for the truth, is it? That's why on this channel you'll get nothing but facts. Speculation, all that will be kept to an absolute minimum, and I think that's really important in this case because it's such a worldwide case and it's such a sensitive case. But yeah, so Chris Watts' parents seem to get the son seemed to get a scoop of speaking to them, and they're saying that they're still supporting their son, yet they live with the tragedy of losing their grandchildren every day. Didn't sound like that in the prison interviews. I don't know if anybody's heard them. Didn't sound like they missed anybody. That's what came across to me. We've heard Cindy, if you've heard her say, you know, she doesn't care what Chris did. Very cold, very quite heartless. You know, what can you say to that? And they are supporting Chris, and they are obviously supporting this new appeal that he's going to be putting through. That going back to story number one, confession number one, that Shanann killed the children, even though Chris has confessed. He's given a detailed confession. He's written letters to Cheryln Cadle. I don't quite know how he's gonna, write that one off as well if it comes down to his appeal. I mean, it's just ridiculous, and I don't really understand it. They say they will always love their murderer son. I can understand that. I can understand family love, always loving your child. Quite relatable. Can understand that, but don't understand why they're not ripping into him for what he's done. You can still love someone and scold them and tell them what an evil, heinous act that they've, done. You've killed my grandchildren. How disgusting is that? Doesn't mean to say that your undying love for your child isn't going to be there. But there isn't any of that. And sadly, I think that just shows, how much hatred they have there is between the families, and particularly from Chris's family towards Shanann, which is very sad. Apparently, Chris is quite upset about was quite upset about the Netflix documentary. Again, you wonder if this is all in response to the Netflix documentary. obviously that gave Shanann her story. It put out there basically the fact that, Shanann was a hard-working mum. Yeah, so what? She may have been a little bit bossy, whatever. Doesn't deserve to be murdered, does she? I mean, I think it's a bit of a slippery slope if we start judging women that have been murdered by their partners, to look and see, oh, were they a bit bossy? Were they a bit, did they do this? Were they a bit, are we trying to kind of justify the fact that they got murdered here? I think that's a little bit of a slippery slope to start going down, but people seem to do it. I think in this case, just so much information was put out, too much. I think the same would be happening now if we had all this information about Suzanne Morphew, say, for instance. I think people would be picking her life apart, and I think Suzanne would have haters and people that would pick parts out of her life. I think it's simply because people had too much information that we didn't need to know. But yeah, they say that they will always love their son, no matter what he did. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard it in the prison phone calls, and there's not one day that goes by I don't wake up with them on my mind. They're talking about the grandchildren. I go to sleep with them on my mind. I will never ever get over this. It's something that stays with you. Ronnie and Cindy say they regularly speak to the twisted killer and claim that he's heartbroken and has turned to religion, spending days in his cell writing in his prison journal. Again, if he's turned to religion, which we thought he had when he spoke to Cheryln Cadle, right? Thought he'd found religion, confessed, again, what he'd done. You're now telling me he's going back to blaming his wife and he's found religion? Seriously? It's not surprising, is it, that prisoners stuck in there for life are going to find religion? It's not surprising they want to get out either. 99.9% of people in prison will want to get out, aren't they? Yeah, and he didn't like the documentary. Didn't like all his texts and stuff being put out there. Well, Crazy Liberty goes out the window, mate, when you decide to kill your family, doesn't it? Shouldn't really have done that, should he? So, it's quite sad that there is this new appeal now going on. It's being put together, I understand, by a lady called Kim Kaufman, who is a friend of the Watts family. As I understand, she met them quite a long time ago. She became a big supporter of Chris's. So it's no surprise that she is now doing what she's doing. Apparently she has connections in Weld County, apparently. And she knows somebody who works in Colorado. So, take that for what you will. But as you can see here, this was a Facebook post. Not exactly sure when it was. This was quite a while ago. But you can see here, she's a Chris fan. If people in this group don't already have the address to write Chris, here it is. And anyone wanting to send money to his canteen account, you can go to blah 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 and set up an account. You can only have $300 max in there at a time. So she's trying to get funds for Chris. She's obviously Chris supporter. So as I say, no surprise really at what she's doing. I'm just really surprised that Chris's family are behind this as well. I mean, I can understand them wanting to find answers, but this isn't the way to do it, guys. Please, I mean, Cindy, Jamie, Ronnie, if you're listening, please, this is not the way you want to be going about things. Seriously, your son has confessed. You're going to have to at some point accept what he has done. So this was this has what came out just recently by OK magazine, right? This is now the kind of stuff that's coming out and that's happening. You've got this people that are desperate. They're not looking for truth. They're not looking for anything like that. People that are desperate to just speak to Chris Watts, get Chris Watts to write to them. They just want to know what Chris is doing and what's happening regarding Chris Watts. It's almost like he's kind of some kind of superstar to them. It's this kind of weird psychology where people just got to know everything about what's going on. And but apparently Chris has been a bit of a naughty boy, and there's a very strange story behind this. This is an adult conduct report, and this is what the OK magazine brought out recently. I believe it's dated 6th of July. I always get the dates mixed up when I'm looking at American dates. Yeah, OK magazine, isn't it? But yeah, adult conduct report. It says on the 6th of July. It's really badly written and it's really blurry. A sergeant so-and-so and so-and-so conducted a cell search on Unit 11. Cell 13 that is assigned to Dylan Tallman. Now, Dylan Tallman is a lifelong convict. I think he's a drug dealer. And apparently he's now a friend of Chris Watts. And his wife, he's got a girlfriend who is a psychologist. Believe it or not, she is a psychologist, a licensed psychologist. Krista, can't remember her name. Christina's got a weird surname. But she is a licensed psychologist. She is right into this Dylan guy who happens to be right next to Chris Watts. And she's in love with this Dylan guy. And they've got Chris Watts to write some letters and stuff. And they apparently they've written a book together, Chris and Dylan, a religious book. And they're going to be selling this book. It kind of gives you the impression that this Dylan and this Christina basically are using Chris Watts to write a book. I think that's kind of what it looks like. I don't know. Are they using Chris Watts to push their name out there? Just very strange. I find it very strange that a trained licensed psychologist would get hooked up with a inmate, somebody that is a lifelong criminal and I believe is a former drug dealer. I find that extremely strange. So anyway, this is the cell assigned to Dylan Tallman. The following contraband items were found in his room: dental floss, toothbrush holder, Colgate toothbrush cup with lid, Bic, looks like Bic Gen, Bic pen, tube of something, it's really hard to read, tube of Carmex, bar of soap, bag of Q-tips, stuff, let me just increase the size, stuff, post-it notes, candy, cocoa butter, lotion, secret deodorant, skin cream, body powder, baby oil, petroleum jelly shampoo, and a pair of boxer shorts, Fruit of the Loom brand, labelled with inmate Christopher's name on them. Inmate Watts, Christopher Watts. So this guy's been caught with a pair of Christopher Watts' boxer shorts in his room. So the story went out that Chris has been lending this guy his boxer shorts. I've attached evidence from WCS to the contraband bag that the only item the inmate Tallman has purchased since being transferred was red magic cream shave. Inmate Tallman has repeatedly been told that there is no trading of any kind on the unit by both first and second shift unit staff. We also found a psychological service request dated 1st of July 2020, that was addressed to, this is where it gets a bit weird, that was addressed to my psychological thoughts and love for you, Krista. Inmate Tallman, Inmate Tallman's psychologist is Christina Kithinji, I think it's pronounced. This is the woman who is actually claiming that this guy is her boyfriend, as I understand. How the hell does that work? Surely that crosses. Surely you can't do that, can you? If you're someone's psychologist in a prison, you can then start having a relationship with that person. That's really weird to me. The request states that he is lovesick for her. Asked her, "Will you be mine through thick and thin, great and rough, among other things?" Inmate Tolman received a conduct report for contraband for having canteen items in his cell that he did not purchase. The long and short of this is he's being done and Chris Watts is being done for supplying him with items. Chris Watts was questioned. Inmate Watts admitted to giving inmate Tallman his own personal books, hygiene products from canteen, toothbrush, petroleum jelly, shampoo, soap, coffee, and his own personal Fruit of the Loom boxes. Inmate Watts was admitted to calling inmate Tallman's mum for him and having Watts' parents message call inmate Tallman's mum and girlfriend also. Per DCI handbook, inmates are not allowed to make telephone calls for other inmates. Inmates Watts said that he was never aware that he cannot give another inmate his property and did not have permission to give any items away. Weird, isn't that rather weird? I just find it odd. This woman is a licensed psychologist, and she's having a relationship with a guy in prison. I just find that extremely weird. So this is a kind of exploitation, if you like, the kind of weird goings on there where people are just obsessed with trying to just know everything about Chris's life. And this woman claims that Chris is a good person. He's found God. He's a really nice person. And Dylan thinks he's a really nice person, and Dylan thinks that Chris is innocent. He thinks he hasn't done anything. He's had a really bad rap, and they just want everybody to like Chris and read their book that they've written together. Religious Bollocks Part 1, whatever it's called, and life's just fine, man. It's just all wrong, isn't it? Shouldn't be in prison. Just seems crazy to me. I don't know about you guys, but that all seems odd to me. So yeah, some of the crazy goings on in Watts, in life Watts, in this case. So as I say, this Chris's appeal is going to be based, as I'm sure you all know, on his first confession. Dumb as that sounds. I think the YouTube channel is called Chris Watts Revelation. Some of you may or may not have seen it. Go and have a look if you hadn't. It's quite disturbing, some of the videos on there. But yeah, they're basically saying that ridiculously that it was indeed Shanann that killed the children. There's no evidence to say that it was Chris. So when I kind of heard and saw that, it almost just made you want to think, we're going to have to go back to clearing Shanann's name, right? I mean, you can't have this. It's not true. It's just, I don't like it. Let's go on back 2 years. It's just wrong. So yeah, let's just remind a few people, and let's remind Chris, and hopefully his family will hear this as well. His confession, what he said, right? So not sure where this came from, but we'll hear it in a minute. I'll play part of his second confession in a minute. His prison interview in February in Dodge, February 19. So obviously Tammy Lee and Graham Coder were the agents interviewing him. Detective Baumhover was there as well. Coder asked him, right? He says, "Did you ever think about, well, it could be very believable what I told them. I could be very believable that Shanann did, end the girls. Maybe if I tried to convince people of that, maybe if I fought with my attorneys on that, maybe I could lessen it somehow. Did you ever think about that?" He's asking Chris that question. Chris replies, "Honestly, I never even thought about that story until you guys mentioned it." Tammy says, "I wondered." Chris says, "I never even thought about it until you guys mentioned it." Tammy said, what did you think about once it got mentioned?" And Chris said, "It's just like I just went with it. I knew my dad was out there, and it was like, I knew they would probably believe it because, my mum and my sister never really liked Shanann." That came out of Chris's own mouth in his prison interview in February 2019. So seems to have forgotten about that. This was an FBI stroke CBI interview. That seems nuts to me. I'm just going to play a short clip of I've just clipped a few bits out of his interview just so we can hear that very, very conversation. So this is from Chris's prison interview in Dodge in February 2019.
I knew it would have gotten worse. I didn't want it to get any worse than it already was.
Did you ever think about, it could be very believable, what I told him, it could be very believable that Shanann did, end the girls. And so maybe if I tried to convince people that, maybe if I fought with my attorneys on that, maybe I could lessen it somehow. Did you ever think about that?
Honestly, I never even thought about the story until you guys mentioned it.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, what, Chris? You said you'd never even thought about it until they mentioned it? I mean, we all kind of knew that. We could all see that. That it was only then that once you had that applied in your head, you were then comfortable enough to bring in your dad. I don't know if anyone else noticed, but very soon after that was given to him, he then decided, okay, I'm happy for my dad to come in because now I've got a story in my head that I'm comfortable to tell him, and I know that they will believe it because they didn't like Shanann. I mean, we all kind of saw that. I saw that pretty much straight off once I saw his confession. He was obviously comfortable at that point to say that to them.
Believable, what I told him, it could be very believable that Shanann did, end the girls. And so maybe if I tried to convince people that, maybe if I fought with my attorneys on that, maybe I could lessen it somehow. Did you ever think about that?
Honestly, I never even thought about the story until you guys mentioned it.
Yeah. Okay.
I wondered.
I never even thought about it until you guys mentioned it.
And what did you think about it once it got mentioned?
It's just like I just went with it. I didn't I knew my dad was out there. I knew it was I knew they would probably believe it because, my mom and my sister just never really liked Shanann. And I knew through all this, I got letters from some of my friends even said, when we went over to your house, we could see, Shanann was more of a dominant personality and more of you're always helping with the kids and everything. Just, you're a great dad and everything. We could see, a couple things that I never saw or, whatnot. And even my best friend Mark even said, there's always, something, I didn't really get with Shanann. I was like, nobody ever told me any of this stuff, but okay. But yeah, I never thought about that story, and, that's what my attorneys were going with.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think it was probably the second week I told them, like, what had really happened.
Second week, he told her what really happened. So Shanann was vindicated, end of August? End of August, that's when Shanann was vindicated. Kind of to the public, it was at his sentencing in October 2018 when he was sentenced. But that's when Shanann was vindicated. He admitted it. He admitted that he killed Shanann and he killed his children. And it's all backed up by the video evidence and everything, as we all know.
What'd they say after that?
They were quiet. They were writing it down. They said they wouldn't judge me, so I told them. I told them everything that happened. And they, appreciated, like, I guess, most of the time, their defendant or their, defendants don't, like, tell them actually what happened.
No. Yeah.
They just, tell them, all right, get me out of here. And this is what happened. But I told them what happened. I didn't want them going, if this was going to go, like, anywhere in the courts, I didn't want them to be under a false pretense and, like, get surprised. So I know, like, there was probably things that you guys probably knew that maybe if I lied to them and just tell them, no, this is what happened, that it would have, like, made them look, foolish and stupid and just, like, unprepared. And I'm just like, this is what happened. And they appreciated me telling them that, so now they would be prepared. And that's when they were saying, like, if it was ever, if we ever went to them, the prosecution, and say, hey, if we could end this, would I be open to it? I'm like, if it could end it.
The defense team went to the prosecution with the plea. There's still some people that don't seem to understand that. It wasn't the prosecution that were desperately trying to get together this plea deal to try and stop everything moving forward and stop the trial. It was Chris's defense team that, after hearing what he told them, were then, like, probably, thinking, shit, what are we supposed to do here? Best we got, Chris, is a plea deal. We can try and save your life. That's how that whole thing went. That's how that whole plea deal came about. It was his legal team, his defense team, that put that together, took that to the prosecution and said, look, if he's admitted to it, if he signs all that off, holds his hand up, will you save his life? DA Walt then took that to Shanann's family, and they didn't want it. They that's, to them, that's God's work. They saved his life. That's the only reason he's I mean, in reality, death penalty in Colorado, I don't know, but certainly on paper, that's the only reason that his life was saved, right? Was Shanann's family. I just want to play a little bit more of that, because he's also now in his appeal talking about the fact that he was, coerced into confessing and taking the plea deal and all of that. But he talked about that as well in his confession. He kind of covered all of that. I'll let him speak for himself. It's only sort of a few minutes long, and then we'll just talk a bit more about it after. And I just want to touch on Cheryln Cadle a bit as well. Just say some things I think you'd be really interested in.
Do you feel like your lawyers were fair to you?
Yeah, they were my only human contact, really.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like, almost like a guidance counselor, almost.
Yeah. Did you feel like you were driving the bus, though, with your decisions you made?
Yeah,
or no?
I was like, there was a lot of things I didn't really know what was going on behind the scenes. Like,
Sure.
Maybe there was a lot of things they never told me. Like, like stuff that came out, like, afterwards. Like the whole, Nikki Kessinger article in Denver Post and all that kind of stuff. They told me, like, afterwards and everything. But it was, always felt like anything I was telling them, they were gonna do. Like the whole taking the plea deal and everything, I told them that's what I wanted to do, and they asked me like, seems like 100 times, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure? Like, once you sign this, like, I guess like up until sentencing.
So he admitted there, his team asked him, it felt like 100 times, you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to do this? Once you sign this, that's it. You waive all your rights away. Are you sure you want to do this? He said yes. He wanted to go ahead with it.
I had the time to back out, but like they always, even before we walked in the courtroom, like, are you sure? So yeah, this is it. Like, okay. They never told me this is what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
They always just said, this is your decision, like, if you want to take this farther, and John said he was right. He had all kinds of motions written, all kinds of stuff that were like really creative, and because he'd never been in something like this before, and he was ready to fight. And I was just like, I didn't want you to have to do that. Not for me, not for something that the story isn't true. Because it would just only gotten worse.
Right.
For everybody, for all three of you, for everybody that was involved in it.
Are you still glad you did?
Yeah, I mean, I never thought I'd be in prison the rest of my life, but like I don't want people to have to keep going through this every day of their lives, knowing that there's a trial hanging over their head, or I mean, if it ever got that far, I don't know. Yeah. But like, I didn't want people to have to relive it every day.
Yeah.
Did they have to ever see the pictures?
Say that again.
Did they have to?
That's a very good point. Someone's just, Ian T's just raising the chat there. If Chris Watts didn't kill them, why did he show no emotion whatsoever during sermon on the porch the following day? He would have been breaking down. And that's absolutely right. People that say they just can't believe that Chris would have done it. There's just no way. He needed help. Just look at him. The next day when he was on the porch appealing to the TV, almost smiling, no emotion whatsoever. That just gives you a glimpse into his kind of mindset right there. That should be enough to tell you there's something really not right, with Chris Watts. There's serious underlying psychological issues with that man. He just didn't care that his family were gone. He knew where they were. He didn't care. He showed no emotion. He knew exactly where in his confession. He knew exactly where they were in those tanks. How there can be any doubt in anyone's mind that he didn't put them in there, I don't understand that at all. And this is a guy, like I say, he doesn't like people thinking badly of him. He really cares about what people think of him. Why would he be here giving this detailed confession? If he really cares about what people think of him, I'm sure he could come up with some kind of different story, right? Didn't have to make it that graphic and that bad. Why would he do that? It doesn't suit him. He's a very self-serving liar. That doesn't suit him whatsoever to come out with this disturbing, detailed confession. And then he gave more to Cheryln Cadle. Said he tried to kill the children in the beds first. Why would he do that? Why would he say all this stuff? If he's bothered about what people think of him, it just doesn't make sense.
You see the pictures, Frank and Sandy and all that?
No, they never saw it.
They saw some things.
They didn't see anything of that.
Okay.
Yeah, we shielded that from them.
That's one thing. I just didn't want them to have to see anything or hear anybody talk about anything or any part of it. Or like, anybody best their daughter, like anybody to ruin, like, to hear what, some of my friends had a negative, impact on her, from her, or like had a description of her that didn't match, something like that. I didn't want them to hear that either. But, like, I didn't want them, like, anybody have to trash her memory. Like, I wanted, like, to know like she's a loving wife, she's beautiful, she always helped everybody else, all her friends, her Lucas friends, everybody. I just want I don't want anybody to take away from what she did.
We tried to get you to say that night. I know, but do you remember that?
I remember. I was just like,
I know you obviously weren't ready to say that then.
I know. It's like, like after my dad left, we both came in like, all right, we got most of the story. Let's get to the true story. I'm just like, I just wanted to bang my head against the table.
Well, in the end, I think you did the right thing. And even though it's hard to hear, there's a lot of people who thank you for what you did. I think your whole life has been thinking of others, except for one brief moment. I think you really did think of others when you made that choice. So I personally thank you, right? Because it would have been hard for the three of us to go through about this hard, and for everyone else about that hard, right?
Yeah, anybody.
It's interesting how the agents suck up to him, isn't it? It's almost quite difficult to hear sometimes when they're kind of praising him. But of course, it's all part of them winning him over, winning his trust. Oh, Chris, we think you're a good guy. You just made a really bad decision, and it's just such a shame. But you're not a bad guy. And that's great. Great interrogation by them.
That was family or friends,
right?
And just exponentially harder for everybody.
Yeah. I think you did the right thing.
So you haven't told your parents what happened? You just told them I'm pleading guilty for a reason?
Yeah, I've told them like on the phone, even because they're still. I don't know.
You should fight it. You should get.
They've got letters from like Australia, from England. I mean, of like the 35C in Colorado and stuff, like improper counsel or something like that. Ineffective counsel, and I mean some of the stuff they've they've said about the dry patch, how it's not like FDA approved, how it can alter somebody's mind, like there was some kind of condition, but there's something else they call like CPSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, something like that. Have been like, some people from England have had it. It's like they've been in an emotionally abusive relationship and stuff like that. I mean, just like some of those subjects they put in there, like I can relate to it, but like it doesn't make up for the fact what happened. But like they've got a lot of support they've got a lot of hate mail, a lot of phone calls, a lot of like stuff like that. I wish they never happened, but they get some support, which is good, but on the phone, they still think, there's a chance that I could get out.
Still think that today, right? I mean, this was February 19. We're now, August 2020, November 2020. Still think he's got a chance to get out.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to ever think your kid's going away forever. Like,
yeah,
you don't want to fathom that.
They tell me to fight it, like, they don't, not every day, but on their bad days, they'll get a bad message or a bad letter, and then they'll just kind of revert back.
Is it more your mom or your dad?
My mom. She loses it a lot.
Yeah.
On the phone, my dad's usually trying to, like, hey, don't talk about this stuff on the phone with him. Because it's just gonna rile you up, and it's gonna make him go back to his cell, and he's gonna just kind of think about that all night.
Right.
And that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Would you ever want them to know what you're telling us today?
I'd rather just tell them myself.
Yeah.
So they're coming. I think they're gonna try to make a visit in like May or so.
So they don't. Do they still think that?
Makes me wonder. There, he said, I'd really want to tell my parents myself, what I've done, even though he's given the confession, which to the prison, which I'm sure the whole world has heard. But it just makes me wonder, because Chris is so manipulative, and he just says what people want to hear sometimes. I hope that he's not kind of telling his parents a different thing. Do you know what I mean? Like he's trying to give his parents some kind of hope that maybe he does want to get out, and that well, probably what he is saying now with this 35C, that actually he lied about all of that confession. He just plays and manipulates everybody, including his own family. It's quite sickening, really. It's just such a manipulative evil liar. He really is.
Shanann killed the girls.
They still believe that, even though I told them I pled guilty for a reason, but they think that I was, their words, like, railroaded by believing.
Yeah.
Because they, they felt like they pressured me to do it.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that?
No.
No.
They asked me plenty of times. This is like, they wanted to fight. Like, if I said fight, they would have just,
Put on their gloves.
Yep. Just went in there and did it.
There you go. He admits it. He wasn't pressured at all into confessing, telling the truth. Not at all.
Yeah, it's like, no, I can't have you do that.
So, Chris, you care about others deeply. I can tell. You worry about others. And I've asked you, a bunch of times today, but you're not just telling us that you did it because you feel bad for Shanann's memory. You did it? Okay.
There you go. He did it. It's all there. It's all in his confession. I've just taken those particular clips out because they were relative to what we're talking about. But he confessed. You can't go and confess, make up one story one time, and then 6 months later turn around and say, "Oh no, actually, I wasn't really telling the truth that time. This is actually the truth." It just doesn't work like that. So I just find it unbelievable that he's gone back to saying that his wife killed the children. I mean, it'd be interesting if he didn't believe that, wouldn't it? And it's his family or whoever this Kim Kaufman woman is who's pushing for that. It'd be interesting, wouldn't it, if Chris came out and said, "No, that's not true." You just don't know now, do you? You just don't know what's going on with these people that surround him. They just all seem to be nuts. They're all in it for. None of them are in it for the truth. Almost, it seems. I mean, I guess maybe his family are, although they're obviously in deep denial in my mind. But all these other people that are trying to nosy their way in, they're just doing it for all the wrong reasons. It just seems to be agendas, biases. They spin stuff. It's just crazy. And that's why I say it's just become a complete circus, really. Yeah. So, what did I want to talk about next? Oh yeah, this is just for anyone who hasn't seen it. So this is again, this is kind of Chris confessing again. Confessed to Cheryln, right? He wrote in a letter to Cheryln Cadle. This is his handwriting. I've analysed it quite closely. It matches his other pieces of handwriting that we have, and he's written a confession. So he's going to have to tell. This is all going to have to be rubbish, right? If he's going to appeal. So I'm not sure if anyone has seen all of this, but I'll just read through it quick. This is Chris's latest story, basically. What happened. So it's dated 23rd of April. This was when Cheryln Cadle was still in contact with Chris. He hasn't been for a long time. And he says, "Dear Cheryln, hello again. I hope you are doing well. It's been awesome being able to talk with you on the phone, but I know the 15-minute time limit is a pain. Sometimes I could get right back on the phone, but right now there are other inmates that like to be on the phone as much as I do, so I respect their time as well. How's your dad doing? I hope you're able to see him. I've been praying on that every day." Yes, that petition really blew my mind that people really want to make me suffer like that. Even if they did ever take my pictures, they can't take my memories. So I know that petition failed to work anyway. It didn't take his pictures down because they would have to take down pictures of all other inmates. An inmate from another institution wrote me about that subject and said if they take your pictures, they would need to take the pictures from the other 500 to 600 people that have their family pictures up in their cells, convicted of the same act. Do I feel like I should be incarcerated for the act I committed? I most definitely think so. Do I imagine myself ever doing anything like this or be a danger to society? I most definitely think not. If I were to ever be released, I know I would go straight to a ministry and start going to jails and prisons and help inmates. If God led me to be ordained, I would go that route as well, possibly. Even be a chaplain. Maybe the laws will change one day. My attorney team could see I was different, and they knew that this was a one-time occurrence for me. They even told me that in Europe the law is I would serve 20 years or so for homicide, and in California, after 25 years of imprisonment on a life sentence, you can be released if you've had good behaviour. So there's hope for everyone to live outside prison walls. I know physically I'm behind these walls, but my spirit is free with Christ. So, he's become very religious. Chris is an extremely religious man now. He has found God. If God keeps putting it on your heart that there is more to the story than what the FBI has, you're correct. I don't like saying stuff like that over the phone, because I'm never certain when they screen my calls. I know I already told you about the vision I had before August 13th. Hang on, let me just take my image out. When I was lying in bed and all the lights were on in the loft and downstairs and I felt so alone. That's exactly what happened August 14th when I was lying in bed. I'm not sure if I want this in the book or if God does. But here are the things I left out. 1. August 12th. When I finished putting the girls to bed, I walked away and said, that's the last time I'm going to be tucking my babies in. I knew what was going to happen the day before, and I did nothing to stop it. I was numb to the entire world. I'd literally taken my kids to a birthday party, played with water balloons, had an amazing time, sung songs all the way home, gave them both a shower, ate dinner, read bedtime stories and sang bedtime songs, and still nothing registered. When Shanann had to be somewhere, I always enjoyed taking the girls places or playing outside because it was our opportunity to bond. And still, even the night before, I couldn't stop myself from what I knew would occur the next morning. August 13th, morning of, I went to the girls' room first before Shanann and I had our argument. I went to Bella's room, then Cece's room, and used a pillow from their bed. That's why the cause of death was smothering. After I left Cece's room, then I climbed back in bed with Shanann, and an argument ensued. After Shanann had passed, Bella and Cece woke back up. I'm not sure how they woke back up, but they did. It makes the act that much worse knowing that I went to their rooms first and knowing I still took their lives at the location. The reason the medical examiner found OxyContin in Shanann's system is because I gave it to her. Don't know why I said that because they didn't find it in her system. I thought it would be easier to be with Nicole if Shanann wasn't pregnant. If the world knew all of that, I'm pretty sure a new petition would be started to have me put to death or I'd be killed in prison if I ever got transferred from this institution. I'm not sure if this was a spiritual visit, but I had a dream Cece was dancing next to the chair in my cell. When she was dancing, one of my folders in the chair started moving and I thought she was in trouble. So I said, watch out, get away, watch out. Then I woke up. I hope she comes back. I hope everyone comes to visit me. I'm trying to see if I can clear my head better before I go to sleep to help. And then he quotes a religious passage and then just take care and God bless. Signed Chris. Again, he's told the world exactly what he's done, right? And that's when we found out about the OxyContin, of course, that he tried to kill Nico with the OxyContin. Total premeditation, which we now know is a premeditated act. He'd been thinking for it for weeks. So, another bit of news, as we know, so Cheryln Cadle had a book out. We all know, right, about the plagiarism with Anne Howard, okay? Kind of ruined her reputation, right? She got caught plagiarising. Not good. Not good at all for an author. So she's got a new book coming out. The Murders of Christooher Watts. I believe it's out end of November. For anyone who, what you can take from it now is just such a grey area now, isn't it? Because of Cheryln's reputation. And it's kind of a shame in my mind. You've got one of the biggest crimes ever in America in recent history. Um, Absolute opportunity of a lifetime to speak with Chris and just try and learn, the whole 100% whole truth and the psychology behind Chris and what have you. And it's somebody who's never even written a crime book, never even written a crime book. Um, I just find that unbelievable that she had that. It's just a shame, really, that no disrespect to Cheryln, but it would have been great to have somebody, a real experienced crime writer or criminal psychologist or something like that. Somebody who can't, and somebody who knew everything about the case, someone who did all their research. She clearly didn't, because after her book release, she then went on to channels and she bought into all the conspiracies. She was saying, "Oh, did you know there was a red car there?" And, "Oh, did you know this?" And "Did you know that?" And she just bought into this whole conspiracy thing. And now she's apparently got stuff in this new book, that she just rushed the first book, didn't have time to put it in, and lo and behold, it's all bombshell news. And she's got all the answers to all the questions that people have been, like, "Oh, was the red car there?" And "What was that black car outside?" And "Oh, did you say this about NK?" And she seems to have all these answers to people. It's like, well, you haven't spoken to Chris for a long time, like since last year, early last year. You didn't even know these questions existed back then. How are you going to know the answers to these questions now? She claims she's got written notes that she didn't put in her first book, but I don't know. It's just really hard to believe a lot of it, and it's such a shame because people are really looking for answers. Some people just to try and put the lid on this whole case and move on. And fortunately, I don't think they're going to get that. I think it's possibly just going to blow open a whole new load of conspiracies that just, and things that aren't true that people are going to quote as facts. I hear so many people say, "I just can't understand this case. I just can't understand how he did it." And they try and look for answers within the case and within the thing is, it's never ever going to make sense. This case is never going to make sense. When a man kills his wife and his little children and an unborn son like that, it's never ever going to make sense. But the only way you're ever going to try and find the answers is to study Chris. It's not to try and pick out little things in the case facts. In my mind, the only way you're ever going to try and understand what happened is if you understand Chris. And I don't think probably no one ever will, because let's face it, he's just a very sick man, isn't he? Psychologically unwell. He's narcissistic psychopath, probably would be the closest thing you could say. But this is a really important point. This is just something that I wanted to point out. Okay, so in her book, she copied out like the letters that Chris had written. So she didn't actually put the letters in the book, the pictures of the actual letters. She copy typed out what he had written, okay, from his letters. And there was a particular one in there, one of his letters, where Chris talked about his friends. So the line here, it says, you ask if there's anything I haven't talked about in regards to Nikki, talking about Kessinger. Honestly, I'm not sure what I've said and what I haven't, but this is what I know. She had a small group of friends that she didn't tell me about. They were dark and did some dark things. Okay, recently, just come up, I can't remember where it was published, but we get to see the actual letter that she was referring to. Okay, so it starts here. You ask if there's anything I haven't talked about in regards to Nikki. Okay, this is Chris's actual letter. Okay, dated 15th of May. Same letter that she typed out. Now let's read the letter. This is Chris's actual handwriting. Okay. You ask if there's anything I haven't talked about in regards to Nikki. Honestly, I'm not sure what I've said and why I haven't, but this is what I know. She has a small group of friends that she didn't tell me a lot about until near the end. She was involved in an abusive relationship a few years before. Whoa, hang on a minute. Right. Let's go back to Cherylyn's version of that letter. You ask if there's anything I haven't talked about in regards to Nikki. Honestly, I'm not sure what I've said and what I haven't. But this is what I know. She had a small group of friends that she didn't tell me about. They were dark and did some dark things. It's like, well, hang on a minute. Chris hasn't written that in his. It's not in Chris's letter. That's the point I'm trying to make. Cherylyn has inserted that into Chris's letter. And of course, all came out then about all this dark stuff. In her book, Letters from Christooher, dark stuff. Dark, the word dark is mentioned like 45, 50 times. In reality, it looks like Chris never, ever mentioned that she was dark or had dark friends. It's not in her letter. And I have a real problem with that because people don't really want to know what the author's opinions are or what the author speculates happened or anything like that. People want to know, it's just true crime, right? People want to know what truly happened, what Chris truly said. It's quite deceiving to me that you would start adding things in to letters that he'd written. And I mean that's unfortunate. That's annoying, and it falls in now, obviously with a plagiarism. Like I said, I don't want to sit here and bash authors. It's not what I'm about, but it just annoys me when there's inconsistencies like that, particularly in such a high-profile case as this. In a new book, apparently she puts in all the letters, the originals, so we will see all that. But there's some other stuff I think that she's added in. Another thing that she put in Letters from Christooher, she put in, after Christooher killed his family and drove away, Nikki texted him to look up the song by a Metallica band called Battery. That's not in the discovery. It's not in the discovery that Kessinger texted Chris that morning. What is in the discovery is that at 10:10 on that morning, August 13th, Chris searched Google for the lyrics to Battery by Metallica. Nothing to say that Kessinger texted Chris and said, "Hey Chris, can you look up the lyrics for Battery?" Chris looked them up by himself, and he mentioned it in his prison confession. In there it says, with regard to him looking up lyrics to the Metallica song Battery, Kessinger liked the song Battery and asked him what the song meant. He researched the meaning behind the lyrics and learned it referenced a family coinciding as a battery. He did not look up the lyrics to the song when he was driving to or from the oil site after the murders. 10:10 he would have been at the next site. I think they went to Survey, might have been 10:29 or something. Kessinger was into different types of music, and Battery was a song that she had asked him about because he knew Metallica well. So it looks like the true story behind that is at some point in the past, recent past, Kessinger had asked him about that song, and then 10:10 that morning when he left 319, gone to the next site, was there. He then looked it up. So again, it's kind of a thing that's been put into the book, but it's not really, is it true? You know what I mean? It's not actually true by the look of it. You're only going on Cadle's word. It's difficult to know, isn't it? What's true and what isn't. I just want to bring up a few other things that you may or may not have heard, but just things kind of that Cheryln Cadle has been saying. I think it's very interesting. She's a highly public figure writing this book. Someone asked her in comments, you said that you needed legal clearance before you could talk about certain things and that you now have that. Does that legal clearance involve having to wait for a certain someone to have their name changed? Of course, that was Kessinger. She says, no, it only has to do with things that I can write about. Okay, so that's fair enough. So it's nothing to do with Kessinger changing her name. This one, someone says, "Hi Cheryln, I hate to be blunt here. I'm curious why you didn't put this information that you have into the first book. Why now?" And she says, "Unfortunately, the first book was written way too fast. I should have taken my time." Okay, so apparently she's got all these notes that she didn't put in the first book. Okay, it's just interesting that they're all kind of bombshell pieces of information that she forgot to put into a book that she didn't know she was going to write. But there you go. Yes, she said, "Some things I've written down in a notepad and misplaced it. I talk to him almost daily. I had hundreds of notes." Someone says, "Interesting. I'm interested in knowing more about NK. Did he ever say that she was there that night, or did he ever say that she was there?" And she says, "No, he didn't." Okay, so according to Cheryln, Chris didn't say that NK was there. Of course, it's difficult to know what's actually true or not without being disrespectful, because obviously we've seen the inconsistencies. Yay, do you think she'll ever be charged in relation to this case? I honestly believe she turned state evidence. Someone says, "Sorry, what does that mean?" It means involvement. Her involvement, the authorities thought, was not nearly as bad as his, so they felt that she knew some things. So they offered her immunity to tell them whatever she knew. That gave them evidence to use against him. The thing is, though, they didn't really need anyone to. They didn't really need anyone. They didn't actually. I mean, they knew about Kessinger's affair anyway, didn't they? They had Chris's truck GPS information. They had a whole load of stuff. They really didn't need her to be an informer, to turn state evidence. But there you go. Cheryln thinks that. Someone says, "Oh my God, please say this isn't true." And someone says, "Oh, I'm curious why they would need to have state evidence. They had the boss advise them of the affair. They had his GPS, so they would have tracked him to Survey, and they found the sheet. Of course, they also had the call to the school. They had the call to the realtor. He folded quickly without them using information from Kessinger. I don't know why they're helping her, but for whatever reason they did. Some people still believe that the police are helping her. I don't know. My opinion, I don't think they are, but there you go. I know some people still do. Now, this is something that I found really interesting, right? And it's this kind of stuff which kind of makes me think, okay, what's going on? What is going on? So Cheryln says, "This is not a fact, but something Christopher told me in one of my many, many conversations with him. I told him about the black car that pulled up and a woman got out. He told me it was probably NK. He had given her his house code, and he said that she was going in for a crystal. Wasn't sure which one, or if it's the one he bought her, or if she got it. What's your thought? Please remember not to shoot the messenger. I'm not saying it's a fact." I kind of have it. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of that? I want your honest opinion on what you think about that. You know, because that's quite a big piece of information, right? So according to Cheryln Cadle, although it's not a fact, but something that Chris told her, but it's not a fact, he said, yeah, that black car, you know, that pulled up, it probably was NK, and he'd given her the house code and said that she was probably going in for a crystal. Yeah, I don't buy it. I think that's a general consensus. Yeah, so this is the woman that went in, but they didn't see him coming out on Nate's CCTV, and the garage lights were on. You know, given that it's probably going to be a whole lot of crazy people that just want to go up to the house and look around and poke around. We've seen all that recently. And yeah, this piece of bombshell evidence that she just happens to now have had written down, which she didn't put in her last book, but she's now got a new book that she didn't know she was going to write because she didn't know she was going to be caught plagiarizing. But fortunately, now she's got the chance to write this book. She's got this opportunity to put all these nuggets of information in. Yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah, Dr. Debunking, how was Chris Watts treated in high school? Yeah, I really don't know. I'd be interested to know. I mean, we know that he apparently didn't have a girlfriend. Apparently, he was very good at lying. He managed to convince his teacher that he was going to Japan or been to Japan or something. It was all a complete lie. And we know he used to shut himself in the bathroom. Stuff like that. I think there's a lot. To Chris Watts, a lot is in his childhood. I guarantee you, there is something. There's something there in his childhood, in his growing up. Psychopaths often be known to have what's called a warrior gene, which is a particular gene that is familiar with psychopaths, and often there's hereditary. If you go back into history, I'm not saying anything bad about his family, but often when you go back in people that are murderers and stuff, you'll find back in the family history, you'll find that there were other murderers. Interestingly, I think it's part genetics, definitely, part how you brought up, that kind of nature nurture balance, isn't it, really? Okay, so that's quite a nugget of information. She must have a book to sell or something, right? I don't know. Let's just have a look at a couple more. Let me see. I think I've gone. So we've done that one. We have done that one. Sorry about this, guys. I will get there in a minute. How many people read the first book? How many people read Letters from Christooher? Yeah, on she has done an interview with the Unmasked channel, and she's claimed a few things on there. She's even claimed that Chris told her that he introduced Nicole Kessinger to Shanann in July of 2017. Apparently, according to Cheryln Cadle. For some reason, that nugget of information she didn't put out there in the first book. But yeah, that is the new piece of information that's going to come out. Right. Okay. Yeah. Here's another. Here's a little nugget of information from Cheryln. So she says, someone says, "Hey Cheryln, I can't wait for the book. Did you ever ask Chris why he went straight to Shanann's car? Some people think it was to get her phone or a wedding ring." And Cheryln answers, "When I asked him about that first, he said no reason. Then he said he wanted to make sure there was nothing of NK's there." I'm kind of like, I just can't believe this stuff. I really can't. All these questions that she didn't know about until she started speaking to YouTubers after she's seen Chris, and she started finding out all this information that people wanted to know. All of a sudden, she actually does have the answers. She did speak to Chris and asked him all these specific questions. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you guys are. I don't know who you guys are buying this and who's not. But it's interesting. Here you kind of have author bias, really. Do you think others will be convicted in this case? I would certainly think so. Maybe a couple of people. So apparently she thinks a couple of people should be convicted, but she hasn't gone to FBI or anything with this information, which is interesting, considering she thinks a couple of people should be should be arrested. You probably should go to. You probably should take that information to the CBI, FBI, Cheryln, if you're sitting on things like that. Now, this is something that kind of completely contradicts itself. As I just said, she has done an interview with another YouTuber, and she did mention that Chris Watts told her, or Chris Watts said that he introduced NK to Shanann in July 4th, 2017 at a fireworks party. Okay, now somebody's asked her here, and this was just quite recently. Hi Cheryln, do you believe Chris Watts and Kessinger knew and were dating each other for much longer than they confessed to? Now, you'd expect her reply to be yes, they were, because he told me that they met in July of 2017, and Chris said that he introduced NK to Shanann. But no, she's put, in my opinion, absolutely. In my opinion, absolutely. So she totally contradicts there what she was claiming in that interview. I don't understand that. I really don't understand that at all. If you guys can make that any clearer to me, I don't think people really want to hear opinions either. You can go on YouTube and hear a million opinions about the case, right? Oh, that was that one. We've seen that one. I've just got a couple more, guys. I just think these are interesting because, I just think it helps just to kind of get a feel on what this author, was thinking about when she was writing this book and her thoughts. Someone said, "Why did you hold all this new information back from the first book? Can't imagine you ever thought that you'd write two." Very good point. She didn't know she was going to be pulled up for plagiarism and have to redo it. And she said there were things I was not going to release. Someone said, "What made you change your mind?" And she didn't reply to that one. Just got another one for you here. Can you elaborate on why you stopped visiting him? Was it your choice or his? I know you mentioned that he was upset. What happened? Cheryln Cadle's response: I am the one who stopped visiting. The last time I visited him, I left very upset. He had changed. He was darker and hard, not just usual self. My husband was with me that day. He said he thought prison had changed him. I cried when I left. I felt dirty. The story I thought was that Chris didn't want to talk to her anymore, but I don't know that as a fact, so can't say that. Someone says, did you tell the police the new information in this book before you publish it? Or is it not as important for police to know? She says, my son is a detective and he thinks that I should go to the FBI. Wow, that's quite a statement. As far as I know, she hasn't been to the FBI about any of this new information that's going to come out. Okay, another question. Now, this one I find particularly interesting because I know after a book kind of came out and she was doing YouTube interviews, she had no idea about this red car theory that we've all heard a million times. She picked that up from a certain channel. And as I say, she then got caught up in the whole conspiracy lark. But someone asked her, was there a red car on the gravel driveway that morning? And she says, no, I don't believe so. Christooher says no. Okay, bearing in mind, Cheryln hasn't spoken to Chris since, God, when was it? March, April 2019? Hasn't spoken to him for a long, long time. How she would know to ask that question baffles me, because she didn't know about the red car theory until after she released her book, and after she started to appear on social media. Another bombshell. In the body cam footage, the detective asked Chris about the bag of clothes at the bottom of the stairs. In my opinion, Chris looked very nervous when asked about it. The same look he had when watching Nate's video. Chris replied that it was old clothes that didn't fit him anymore. Did you ever find that odd too? And if so, did you ask him about that? And Cheryln says, when I asked him about those, he said he didn't remember what I was referring to. In my opinion, they were NKs. So again, you've got, you've got the author inserting their opinion into the book, which for a true crime book, I don't think you can really do that. I think you've got to stay absolutely, you've got to keep your emotion out of it. You can't insert your own emotions and thoughts and opinions and what you would do in that situation, or how you would react, or you can't do that when you're writing a true crime book. You've got to completely take yourself out of the equation. It seems like she's inserted herself too much into this book, which is a real shame. Let me just see if I've got any more. No, I think that's about it. So yeah, interesting, isn't it? I think a new book's going to come out at the end of November. But I don't know. I think it's got to be taken with a pinch of salt. I think everything now surrounding this case with a lot of people has just got so grey and so blurred, so spun. There's just so many lies. Everybody who is supposedly out looking for the truth just seems to be full of their own lies and full of their own narratives, and people have completely lost sight, I think, of actually, getting the truth and ultimately justice for the victims, right? I mean, there's people that are even interested in supporting. There's even channels that are supporting Chris and his team in him trying to appeal and all that kind of stuff. But I can tell you quite firmly on this channel, there's absolutely going to be zero of that. We believe totally Chris is where he deserves to be. Chris acted alone. Yes, Kessinger may have pushed him into it. In my opinion, I don't believe that she was involved in the murders. I know possibly some of you do, but just don't drink the Kool-Aid. There's too much false information out there that where people are trying to incriminate her, but it's just not true. And I hope that this just all blows over quite quickly. I don't know when Chris is going to be appealing. Does anyone know? I don't know if he's actually formally appealed, whether it's still in the process. I don't think it's got a zero. I think it's got a zero. Yeah, like Anon says he has no chance of appealing. Well, I know firsthand that DA Rourke just laughed off the thought of Chris appealing. Hi, Jenny Hansen. Nice to see you. Yeah, he laughed off that Chris is going to appeal, and I can't see us ever getting off the ground. Like I say, he's confessed. He's given a detailed confession to exactly what he did. He then provided some more details to Cheryln Cadle. There may well be more. There may well be more to the story, but like I say, just remember, before anybody knew that his family was missing, he called the children's school and said they're not going to be going there anymore. And I think that says all you need to know, really. We know it was all premeditated. We know now about the OxyContin. The truth is there. Some people will just seem to skirt around it. They don't want to see the truth because they want to keep their own little game going. They want to keep their own little game going, which is sad, really, that people are doing that. Ulterior motives, guys. Right, okay, I've been on for an hour and a half. I hope you learnt something tonight. I hope I hope you can kind of see that this appeal really is ridiculous. Don't think it's going to get off the ground at all. I think it's ridiculous that he's going back to his first confession. I think it just shows that he has absolutely nothing. People were hoping. There were people out there who were hoping. I know that NK's involvement was suddenly going to come out. That Chris was going to suddenly tell everyone that somebody else was involved. I've no doubt he would. In my mind, if this is his one shot, if there was any chance of him making himself less culpable and bringing in others that he knew he could possibly have done for this crime as well, I've no doubt that he would. The fact that he isn't kind of confirms to me that there isn't anybody. He can't. He took that decision. He had free will. He made that decision to do what he wanted to do, and that's on him. That's on him. So hopefully, like I say, this is all gonna blow over soon. I think the Netflix stirred everything up, and then obviously this, and once it quietens down, Chris is going to realise he's in prison for the rest of his life. He's had his appeal. That's gone. Maybe then he'll quieten down, pipe down, and we won't hear anything more from him. But there you go. That's the story of that. Yeah, you do only get one chance at 35. At the end of the day, guys, you can't. You go to prison for life, multiple life sentences. You give a detailed confession. You can't then every year keep on coming out with a different story. Oh, it wasn't me. I want to do it. God's got a plan for me. God doesn't want me in here. It just doesn't work like that, does it? I'm sure 99% of people in prison want to get out. The fact is, you can't unless you've got a really valid reason to get out. Right, okay, guys. Well, thanks for listening. As I say, I hope you found it useful. Like I say, Cheryln Cadle has got a new book coming out. I suppose in a way I'm promoting the book, but there you go. I'm also pointing out her inconsistencies though. So there you go. And enjoy the rest of your day, morning, afternoon, evening, whichever it is. And I will hopefully speak to you again soon. Sorry the channel's been a bit quiet lately. I've been health's not been too great lately. I've been having a lot of headaches. I think it's probably too much screen work. But there you go. I'll get myself a pair of glasses, and I should be fit. But yeah, and hopefully we can start looking at some other cases. Unfortunately, there's a lot of evil out there, which means there's a lot of true crime cases to cover. But there's a lot of victims out there that need a voice. So let's keep it going. So take care. Thanks everybody, and I will speak to you all again very soon.